and
I'm Christopher Crumb, and you're listening to FMX Radio.
A serpent guides me to damnation. No religion is a lie. Trust the question, my creation was promise. Light of temptations of destruction, lead closer to destruction. Devastation comes a consequence created by abuse. They call the stuff of freedom, they stand and can't refuse it. Purple walls and make the painted rabbits bullets. Illusion, my intentions to repeat a never down inside a hole. This brotherhood, I found the birth.
A thousand blessings upon all your houses is your boy Chris Vick, FMX himself. One half of the Melodome or 1/3 of the Melodome. You know how we do. It's good to see you people, and have we got a show lined up for you today? I hope you're doing fantastically. You know I miss you, and I miss your beautiful faces. Let me know in the chat how you're doing. Let me know how the weather's going. If you didn't know, over here in the South, we're preparing for yet another annual hurricane season. That's right, parties will be underway, alligators and a whole bunch of new little TikToks and fun, different treats for you in store, not just from yours truly, but from a whole bunch of other different creators, and I'm sure you know plenty of. With us today, though, as I'm sure you've seen in the thumbnail, a very, very iconic, legendary individual who's been in the conspiracy game for quite some time. Yes, sir. I am speaking, of course, of my friend, Mr. Freeman from freemantv.com. Sir, it is fantastic to have you with us today. How are you?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Freaking out, like the rest of the world, just watching it all burn. But an amazing time to be alive. I see the things going for humanity that I don't know. We'll get into that, but yeah, man. I don't know. Sitting here watching the world burn. Yeah.
Ah, yes, that is a perspective, and it definitely, and you're one that's been had their finger on that dial for a while, kind of seeking things out from a very unique perspective. And some of my audience, not a lot, I don't want to say a lot, but some might not know your backstory. Would you please give my audience maybe a short nickel tour of your history, please? It's
Yeah, sure.
quite
Yeah.
impressive.
So, where does it begin, right? I was into UFOs, Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, and any other mystery that you could pull up when I was 10 years old. I was reading all the Time Life books, looking at mummified miniature men inside of rocks and thinking, what is going on this planet? Loving every minute of that mystery. Uh, Grow up, go through life, beach bum, just just living life, living the rock star life, whatever, and decide to go to college and get signed in for free. Get signed in because I'm genius or whatever. They they send me right on through. And I get into this interdisciplinary studies, which is a teachings from the Club of Rome. The first book we read in that college was Limits to Growth. If you guys aren't familiar with any of that. So as I'm sitting there in college, starting to figure this out, I meet this strange, bizarre friend. Uh, I call him Alistair Morrison because he really was a cross between Aleister Crowley and Jim Morrison.
Oh,
Just like this
wow.
punk rock, but he was all into transhumanism and ready for his brain chip. He was taking drugs for bushy dendrites, and this was 1991, folks. So I'm starting to learn about this odd new world. So he introduces the concepts of Crowley, the OTO, Freemasonry, magic, the occult, and esoteric, words that I had never heard before in my life. I didn't never heard the word esoteric. Here I am in college. I'm supposedly a genius, and I've never heard this word. And I'm like, what does it mean? And he says, well, it means you don't know what it means. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Well, he starts showing me stuff, things around the magic books. And actually, that red one there, that was one of his. I ended up with his magician's library because we lived in a van and he failed. And I ended up with his library. Part of my life has been the fool. I literally have followed the tarot in a weird way. I started out by juggling and just juggled my way all around the country for a long time, and then met this guy, went to college, studied all of this, learned of magic and Freemasonry, secret societies, and all of that. And then ended up kind of like the magician, the next card, because all of a sudden I had all this data and knowledge and stuff. But as I'm looking at the magic stuff that this guy's showing me in this big red book, which is the complete system of magic of the Golden Dawn, and I'm looking at Freemasonry, and here you have the Freemasonic Bible. Well, that's my dad's. And I'm looking at this magic stuff this guy's showing me, and I'm saying, wait a minute, I know these signs and symbols. They're in my dad's top drawer. And he's like, well, your dad's a Freemason. I'm like, no, hell no, my dad's not a Freemason. He doesn't know. He doesn't practice any of this kind of what. So I go home and I ask, I'm 25 years old, right? I've been into this weirdness my whole life. Dad never said a damn word, right? And then, so I asked him, so yeah, I just learned of this Freemasonry thing. What do you say? Yeah, well, I'm worshipful master, or I was worshipful master, and my mother's Eastern Star, and she's Esther in the rituals, and yeah, here's all my code books, and and I'm like, what the hell? And he says, well, I was also in Project Blue Book, and I'm like, wait a minute,
So
wait.
your dad, I hear so many stories about how parents don't like to share those parts about their lives with them. So you were one of the unique stories that's always maintained in my memory. Who got involved? Their parents got you involved. It seemed no,
No,
and
no,
in a
it
small
was
way anyway. At least letting you know, not involved is bringing you to any type of seances or anything. But
Yeah,
they didn't seem to mind to tell you about it and whatnot, Eastern stars and symbolism.
yeah, the whole story gets really crazy when you get down into it. It's I'm like, who is my family and why? Who am I? Why was I born? There's some weirdness going on because my mom was married to this billionaire, and this was during well, my mom grew up in Nazi Germany, and then was raced off to France and was raised by a witch. She said that the witchcraft scared her, but this witch was renowned all over Europe for curing warts on cattle, things like that. And she would do these rituals under the moonlight. My mom showed me how this was done and crossing yourself and hobbling while you do it. It was kind of creepy to see my mom do this. She says, I have nothing to do with this. So that's my mom being, raised into this. Then she's married to some multi-millionaire uh, in Luxembourg. And he's the worshipful master that raises my dad to Master Mason. Now, raise means you put you through the ritual as you become a Master Mason, and it's your third degree. But so I don't know. Somehow my mom ends up with my dad instead of the multimillionaire. Weird things going afoot there. How did my dad end up with my mom? And I don't know. That was very strange. So it makes me wonder. And then I get into this and I find out, mom's doing this Eastern Star stuff, and she works for Walt Disney, right? While I'm growing up. My mom's a translator. She speaks 3 languages, or she did. And
Wow.
so I actually have somewhere laying around here Mouseketeer certificates that Walt Disney handed to my mom himself. So my family is all tied in there. I've been at Disney. I grew up at Walt Disney World. I grew up in Orlando. I grew up around all the rocket launches. I grew up, watched the Challenger blow up in my backyard, things like that.
Some of your favorite stories from back in the day when I first found you, and me being in Central Florida myself, hit very close to home. And ever since then, I've been still very open to any type of Disney conspiracies or, under the Disney property and their different
Oh, I've been down
islands.
there, man.
Yeah. Oh man.
I've been to those
Definitely
Disney
want to hear
parties.
about that.
I mean, drag queen story time's nothing compared to a Disney house party, man.
Oh
And
man.
that was in the 70s, right? Like,
Not what about nowadays? You would think it's gotten even more extreme with the way things are. So
well, they have a
public.
bearded drag queen playing a princess at this point, so yeah. They just went full board, but Disney's always been that, and Disney, Disney filmed that Antarctica mission with the Nazis and
Of course,
what's his
did.
name, Admiral Byrd, right? That was all filmed. That was the Disney film. Yeah. You go back and watch Disney on the Front Lines. My favorite one of those is Education for Death. Yeah, check out that cartoon. It's right there with Chicken Little. They run together.
Education for Death.
Yeah.
Chat, look that up. Send it to me, Telegram. I can repost it, please. Definitely want to
Yeah.
see any recommendation Freeman suggests. Speaking of Disney, I'm sure if you noticed, the last 10 or so movies has been very woke, and they've been failing financially quite drastically. I'm sure they're not hurting for money as you would think they were, at least in the public eye. There's a lot of other content creators who focus on Disney content. So, they're really screwing the pooch here. Obviously, I think you would say this is more of a strategic move on their part.
I'm seeing everything as theater, man. I've come to that conclusion now. There are no heroes, and all the villains and everything's manufactured. It's all just to keep you in the game. Yeah, it's everything, right? It is Joe Bo, right? Did Joe Biden die years ago, and is he Bo now? It's gotten so bad, just twisted and undone, and you get to this whole puzzle and you realize it's all theater. Trump's not a savior, and Biden's not a villain. He can't even think for himself. And what's going on now? We got ETs and UAPs and running our our whole world. We've got Peruvian space pirates with jetpacks coming down, ripping off people's faces, or
Oh, I've heard that story. I'm glad you brought that up. I heard that just the other week. I'm like, no way. These kids over here explaining just that in Perugia. If y'all haven't heard, I mentioned it. There's TikToks about. I'm a big TikTok guy. One of the best search engines you can use nowadays, as far as getting any transparency goes. Like if you know what's going on in Hawaii right now, a lot of the great information's coming through via TikTok, and almost none of the major news stations are even touching it right now. Which that's incredible in itself, being right on our homeland. But anyway,
what's really amazing is in a half an hour on my Twitter feed, or X, or on my X feed, which is all TikTok videos, by the way, because I'm not on TikTok, but I see all the TikTok videos on my Twitter feed, right? Within a half an hour of going through my stream, I know everything that is happening. Like, it's crazy. I've got all the news I need for the next week, because I know it's going to be on all the shows from here on out. Blue lasers and whatever. It's all it's all there. It's amazing time to be alive when we can get that kind of data in a half an hour drop, and just God, it's been wild being at this for so long. You know what I mean? Like, my first interview was 1999, and it was the first time we had independent media, and was able to, that was at the WTO IMF protest in Washington, D.C.
It's a mouthful, but I remember you talking about that back then.
Yeah. But yeah, it's amazing times now that we can just get everything. And I mean, shit, look at that stuff we're getting out of Maui. It's fascinating as hell. And I mean, as we watch these cars melted to the ground, and wonder why the asphalt didn't melt, everything blue, left untouched. And
that's you can't write a script better than that, bro. Yeah. These are my heart goes out to all my Lahanan people, man, because every TikTok I see, my heart pours. And that could be us. You never know when they'll push that switch on your neighborhood. Being like, what, we got plans for this. 5-minute city. That's supposedly Orlando. Supposed to have a 5-minute city.
Greenville,
what are they planning
where
on
I'm
doing
at
now? What they gonna do to our spot, man?
I'll tell you what, I went and looked at my power lines, and they haven't cut back my leads in forever. They had people coming to my house, right? There were people knocking on my door that were saying, "Hey, I'm from Evergreen. We want to, kill your pests. So, who are you? Oh, what do you do for a living? Oh, do you know this neighbor?" And I'm like, wait a minute, data point after data point after data point. I'm like, wait, are you BlackRock? Are you scouting my neighborhood? And then next thing, I swear to God, because I live in a small community neighborhood, you don't drive through here. I see now a map car coming through. I've never seen that. Been here 8 years.
Google map car, the Google one with all the cameras everywhere.
So, yeah. And so they're eyeing this spot, and Greenville's definitely on the list.
Man, I've heard a lot of scary rumors about potential things. Florida being a big peninsula, they could do a lot of messed up things here, and I don't even want to utter or speak such things into existence myself, although they're going to make plans with or without our consent anyway. But yeah, this is a scary time to be alive, and it's better to be prepared, and at the very least aware of the potential of certain man-made catastrophes that happen unknowingly. They cut off communications, as in the case with Lahana communications, and as well as taking off there was no alarm set off. They turned off the water an hour before, and it all went down. So you couldn't even start dousing things with water. That's this next modern day, dare I say, 9/11 thing, which is right around the corner. What are they going to do with that?
Well, let's travel back in time and have a look at our world, shall we? Back to the wonderful years of when I started to study these things. But let's go with 1999, Y2K. Boy, that was a big one, right? At that very moment, I was working at Kansas University for Pizza Hut. And they wanted me to teach all their Pizza Hut employees how to make pizza, because mine was best damn pizza in the world. And I said, well, it's love. I can't teach that. So sorry, keep your money. But anyway, I'm working at Pizza Hut. I'm feeding the engineers and the lawyers there at the Kansas University, and I'm bringing them digits. I'm bringing them news and things. Now, to give you an idea of what it was like back then, I would bring in these pamphlets on HARP and weather modification and chemtrails and things of that nature. And, 99, right? The internet, people would say, well, you can't believe what's written on the internet. And I'm like, but it says .gov right here, And they're like, well, that doesn't mean anything. They're just saying that. I'm like, but your government's telling you to prepare for this event, Y2K. They say you have 3 days of food and water at least. And, oh, that's just crazy talk. And I'm like, but it's your government. And so then it would come up in the newspaper and I would say, see, here it is. And they would go, oh, well, he's just saying that. There was a headline on the USA Today. So every day I would read the USA Today because, I was sitting there waiting for the people. And it turns out they don't database the USA Today. So it turns out I can't prove any of this to you because there's no microfiche, no nothing to show USA Today, and specifically the ones that I want to show you, because you can go buy past episodes of USA Today, even all the way back to 99, but not the ones that I'm mentioning. Milosevic accused the U.S. of causing earthquakes and floods in the Middle East. 1999, guys, this was open known on the front page of the newspaper, right? We had this whole setup going on. I'm watching the Gulf War, right? This is where I first learned of chemtrails. They were showing chemtrails in the Gulf War, and they were saying, yeah, we're spraying barium over the insurgents so that we could track them with over-the-horizon radar. I'm like, okay, interesting, And then NATO state after NATO state started getting chemtrails. We started getting reports from England and everywhere, and all of a sudden, it hadn't come to America until 1996. Just about the time they announced that foreign forces fly in American skies for the first time, and that was NATO showing up in America with their chemtrails. So I was there to just watch that happen. I remember watching my first chemtrails because I'm so used to rocket launches that when I saw this, I was like, wait a minute, where's the launch pad? This doesn't make any sense. And then I see them cross and I'm like, oh, wait, we don't launch rockets like that. And, so it was and then we would watch this stuff fall to the ground. It would literally come to the ground as a spider web substance, and it would be all over your yard. And if you went out there, you would develop flu-like symptoms. And then they announced, oh my God, there's a flu-like symptom epidemic. That's what they called it. I know you guys weren't around or awake back then, but that's what they said, a flu-like symptom epidemic. What is a symptom epidemic? Yeah. So then, we dealt with all of these poisonings coming down. They seemed to get it a little better, so it wasn't just falling to the ground on all of us, and we couldn't notice anymore. But people didn't even see it. They didn't believe you. You'd point to them and say, well, that. And they would go, I don't see what you're talking about. What do you mean? I'm like, do you remember playing tic-tac-toe in the sky as a kid? I don't.
No, definitely not. No, they were all everything but tic-tac-toe. Matter of fact, they could be pretty much whatever your imagination. Now you rarely get those type of clouds that you can just look up and like, oh, that looks like this. Nope, they all look like tic-tac-toe or some haze, fuzzy stuff. Then eventually, over the course of a couple of hours, maybe even rain or overcast, and it always seems unnatural.
It's
getting more and more
there's
obvious.
nothing natural now. Well, so we're watching the Gulf War. We're watching the military go in and steal weird Sumerian scrolls with the cuneiform script on it. This whole project at the Baghdad Museum. And Saddam Hussein's claiming to be Nebuchadnezzar reincarnated, and he's having artworks and paintings of himself as Nebuchadnezzar. And if you read the Bible, Nebuchadnezzar is actually who they're talking about when they mention the word Lucifer. So all of this starts tying in, and then the war comes, or the war is happening, but this whole buildup of Nebuchadnezzar, they come in with the shock and awe, and we all remember that shock and awe. But this was a play, and so I started studying Kabbalah. I started studying Hebrew. I started all of this when I learned about my dad. So when I saw shock and awe, I recognized Shekinah. It just triggered in my brain, and so I was like, then they said they were using the mother of all bombs, the Moab. Now the story's starting to tie together. I'm like, wait a minute. Wasn't Nebuchadnezzar fighting the Moabs when the whirlwind came? And so that's the Shekinah and the Moabs and the, Nebuchadnezzar. I'm like, holy shit, this is this is some kind of high form ritual. And then Y2K comes, and they do the Y2K celebration across the globe. I just got my VHS out and started watching that again. We've never had a New Year's celebration like that where they went from continent and country to country. We haven't seen anything like that since. But every one of those things was a large ritual, and this is what really started to wake me up to all of global mass rituals that were going on when they burnt the river Thames to the speed of the sun. They had they were going to cap the Great Pyramid with gold. Do you know this story?
I remember you talking about it. Oh, this one sticks with me. Go ahead, tell it though. I want the audience to hear it.
Yeah, so this was, again, USA Today, if you can find it, December 18th, 1999. December 18th, 1999, USA Today headline read, Muslims stop the Freemasons from capping the Great Pyramid with gold. It's on the front page of the newspaper. There's a big line right there. I'm showing this to the people that I've been telling all this craziness to, and I'm like, look, they're like, what? No, I don't know. And what mysterious events that happened to the capping of the Great Pyramid with gold being canceled. There was a Egyptian Flight 990. I think it was known as Thothmosis, which also plays into this whole story and plays into an ancient UFO story I have for you. But so Thothmosis, this plane, Egyptian Flight 990, left out of LaGuardia and flew to Patterson Air Force. I don't think it was Wright-Patterson yet. I don't know, but where all of their UAP back engineered and everything else are going is where this flight goes, and they pick up 33 Egyptian military and lead scientists from Jet Propulsion's laboratories, and then they fly from Patterson over to LaGuardia and get ready to leave to go to the pyramid before the capping, before Y2K. Just a month before, and the plane takes a nosedive, and all of a sudden the pilot's calling out Muslim prayers because it's an Egyptian flight, and then the plane takes another nosedive and crashes into the ocean. Everybody dies. So 33 Egyptian military coming out of this UAP base with Jet Propulsion Laboratories, and they just crash into the ocean. They call it pilot suicide because of the Muslim prayer that he cast, because this was pre-terrorist programming, right? We were still in 2000. We weren't ready for the whole terrorist programming. So pilot suicide, it was called. But of course, we believe that it was remotely controlled and crashed into the ocean to kill whatever these guys were up to. And at that moment, they canceled the Great Pyramid capping with gold. They were going to take a giant helicopter, a large helicopter, and drop a
Drop it on it.
Yeah.
Right now, let it go.
So they told the world that they couldn't do that. It was too risky to damage the pyramids, and that's why it was canceled. But there's always been this mystery with the Egyptian. I was going to ask,
what do you think? What do you think they were trying to do? Like open some portal or something?
A lot of times it's more symbolic than that.
I know.
If we were looking stuff. Well, no, I mean, we can get into the portals with the Norway spiral if you want.
Yes.
Because, I'm starting to be a flat earther, all right? I'm working my way towards you guys, all right? I've seen so much evidence now, I'm watching pilots fly and the stars aren't moving the right way, watching Elon Musk launch his rocket and the Earth is concave on one angle and round on another angle.
Oh, yeah. A preponderance of evidence. Yes.
It's taken some time, but I like to be sure.
I think your stuff really meshes with flat Earth, honestly, and that's and if it didn't start with you, because I worked my way. You were number one, then I went into from you. Because you started fucking with Alex Jones for a little bit back in the day, before he stopped fucking with you, because he said you was a little too extreme for him. But I just, I never thought y'all was on the same level anyway. He was commercial. You're about the real shit. You come from real shit. And Alex,
he had to change everything because of me.
Exactly.
I'm the reason he had David Icke on. And
I was just gonna say, then I found David Icke next, and then I was all about the reptilians for a while.
Yeah.
And I was hoping eventually that y'all three could come together and just have like a little round table and just I know y'all tried.
I tried. I've been on, I went to England, tried to find him there, and he turned me down. I had him on my show, and he didn't know who I was, and he spoke about They Live the whole damn time. I'm like, David, you don't know what audience we're dealing with here,
Right.
Uh,
Which is
but
too bad.
Alex, this is a story for life, guys. I just want to tell the story of Zoe real quick, and the idea that how I ended up on television, how I ended up speaking with you. Um, I was on I was a glass pipe salesman, right? A tour, right? I'm touring with all the
Oh,
deadheads
nice.
and the hippies and all that. Um, and I land in Austin, Texas for South by Southwest. So I meet some interesting people, and I find Austin really cool. So I start living on Christmas Light Street in my van next to a coffee shop where I basically lived. And I meet this homeless guy on the bus, and here's the life lesson, folks, because I meet this homeless guy on the bus. He's got crazy, greasy white hair. One eye was fuzzy, and he
Oh,
just looked kind of
nice.
scary, like you know but he had such a joy about him. He was so happy and smiling and everything. So his name was Zoe. He bounced up the bus and he sat down next to me. He was in the back and he saw me and he came over and he's just like, you just look so interesting. Can I do your numerology? I'm like, sure. So the lesson here is don't be afraid of people, right? So I'm like, hey, so he does my numerology and he's like, you're the goddess, you're the goddess. I'm like, whatever that means, I
I
don't
don't think
know, but
so.
you seem to be awful excited about it. Well, it turns out that I was going to study Columbia right at that point, but I didn't know that at the
Mm,
time, right? Like I was going
mm.
to unveil the goddess. That was my main show, was Columbia, the guy, the Illuminati goddess. We don't know who this damn Columbia is, so I did the deepest research I could.
Which is
But
you said the representation. Didn't mean to cut you off. Is like the Statue of Liberty, right?
yeah, all of
If
them,
I remember
on
all of
on
them,
all the
right?
Capitol
I mean,
tops, right?
obviously, do you have the production company, and they use
Yeah,
symbology as well? Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I remember those things, man. They stick with me now. I can ever since then, the last 20 years, I'll be watching stuff. I'm like, look, there you are again.
Yeah. I know.
There
I
you
see
are
this
again.
stuff come up, and I'm like, yeah, I made a show about that in 2005.
Yeah, can't help but see it
Not that
now.
I'm cocky about it, but it's just like, come
You're very,
on,
you're
guys.
actually, you're much more humble than you should be, actually. Because I mean, y'all know I said this, right? Everything y'all see now, it's everywhere. It's in my kids' cartoons. Still, they still put it in the cartoons.
And now I'm
You know, with
banned everywhere, so you're not gonna get my stuff free. You got to go, sign up for Rockfin and get my videos now, or get my flash drive where I can give
oh,
you
right,
all
right,
that.
yeah,
Because otherwise, you ain't finding me. I'm moving stuff to Rumble now too, but I have a Rockfin
nice.
channel, Freeman TV, and I have a Rebel channel, Freeman Fly, and so I'm building all of those up. But the Rockfin has a lot, has all my lectures and most of my TV shows. So, but when Zoe, this homeless guy, was doing my numerology, he, we figured out that he lived in his van a couple of blocks from where I lived in my van, and
Oh,
so he left me a note on my van saying, hey, you got to go to the mall and watch this talk. So I'm like, all right, sure. And so I go to the mall. It's this dead end mall in Austin. And it doesn't look like anybody's in there. I finally get to the back, and then sure enough, there's all the people that I had happened to meet. Like they were all there, and they turned out all knowing each other. That was really just weird synchronicity. But um, the guy speaking turns out to be George Green, who was an ex-Bilderberger, financial advisor to Jimmy Carter, which also plays into my life. My dad was on the sub with Jimmy. But so um, I'm out there, and George Green is teaching. He went to go meet the Palladians in Billy Meyer in Switzerland, and
like the
published
real
their.
Palladians, or
Yeah,
they just
yeah.
call
Well,
it.
this is what he's claiming, right?
That's what
And
he's
so
saying.
he
Okay,
he
okay,
published their
okay.
book. Let's see, I might have it right here. No, but he published their book, Handbook for a New Paradigm. Should be right there, but I think I pulled it out while I was doing some other stuff. Handbook for a New Paradigm was supposed to be this book written by the Palladians. I honestly read it, and I would recommend the Celestine Prophecies over this book any day. But George Green took a break and I went out and started telling people about the shock and awe and the Saddam Hussein, Nebuchadnezzar, the Y2K rituals, and the things that I've kind of brought to you here. And this guy comes racing over to me and says, "You need a TV show." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I would have never, ever, guys, never, ever done this. I would have never thought to do this. I wouldn't, you know.
Oh, crazy Ozo, man,
I
came
mean,
through.
I did it anyway, you know what I mean? I was standing in crowds telling this crazy story. I was actually pretending to be an alien at that time. I was slipping up, calling them Earthlings and things
Pretending.
like that. And well, at least I thought I was, right? But so this guy turns out to be George Humphrey, city council member that created Austin Access Television, and he gave me a check right there on the spot, and I went and started a TV show. So it was from this
Wa-
homeless guy that I allowed talk to me on a city bus that brought me to you.
Was it always Freeman, but was there something before you came out with Freeman TV?
No, no, I've been
Always, I
Freeman
figured.
forever.
I figured.
Yeah.
I never heard of
Well, my
anything.
original website, right? Because I had the original podcast. Like I had a friend with a server and knowledge, so he's like, "Do you want a radio show?" But this was after I'd already done the TV show. So
Oh, okay, okay,
I started the TV show, there was no YouTube yet, right?
right.
Um, Google Video existed, and my roommate was secretly putting my TV shows up on Google Video. And so I was secretly becoming this internet celebrity without even knowing that I was online. And I had millions and millions of views. Corporate logos, Columbia, Return of the Nephilim. I made the first documentary on HARP, the first documentary on chemtrails. And this was all like, people were like, "Whoa, what the hell, man?" And so I was famous before I knew it. And I was just doing the TV show. And when I walked into the TV station, I'd been hearing this guy on the radio, like this Alex Jones. And I'm like, "This guy's interesting. I'd like to meet him." And I didn't know anything about him, right? And this is 2005, right? Or 2004 I started, but by 2005 I got to show up. But so I walk into the studio for the first time and it's Alex Jones sitting there in the chair. And so that's how we ended up meeting, because I was on his level now. If I'd met him on any other level, it wouldn't have worked. But now I was a producer as well. So that's how I met Alex Jones. Yeah.
Alex is quite a character. I'm very curious because I've been following you for quite some time. I love the idea of these rituals that be. I don't love the act of it happening, but I like feeling like I'm more plugged in with someone like you and more in the esoteric knowledge realm. Who are the people today? If those of the names like Obama and everybody with the archons of their little reign, who should we be looking at now, if anybody? Or are they doing things a bit differently than they did the last couple of decades?
Yeah, it really is interesting. And I guess that's why I jumped back to 99 and was kind of walking it forward.
Which is perfect. Perfect.
Because we see it, right? Like,
Mm,
let me just go where my brain goes, I guess, with this
mm,
is, as I witnessed what was happening, and that this was all this big theater and giant ritual in these ways. I had a major UFO experience, right? 1993, Daytona Beach. Me and a friend lost 10 minutes or 10 hours of time, um, or 5 hours, I guess it was. I was thinking of the time. But yeah, we lost 5 hours in Daytona Beach after witnessing this giant rectangle floating over the ocean during spring break. And then I can only correlate. I don't know that this is true, but after that, I started kind of predicting the future, or I just kind of got more understanding at that time. But I don't usually identify myself as an abductee, although I have experiences all my life. I have scoop marks, if you want to see, they exist. I don't know if I could show that on there, but
oh
yeah,
yes, I see
I,
some marking. I see some marking.
yeah.
Yep, you're a clone
Uh,
now.
it's
We
a
have
weird
Freeman
place
the
to,
clone.
So, all my life, and my dad being Blue Book, chasing flying saucers for the government. My dad was stationed on a South Sea island chasing the flying saucers. So, my whole life is, and then, all of the cult and everything else wrapped up in there. So, yeah, if there are abductees, I am one, you know what I mean? But that event on Daytona Beach was truly bizarre and hard to explain. And it was weird because I find my friend that was with me, he ended up living in all the different places I lived. He was living in Texas when I lived in Texas, lived in Kansas when I lived in Kansas. Now he lives in South Carolina, and we don't talk. We just happen to run into each other, and like, oh shit, you're here, So he asked me, well, do you remember seeing Future Orlando? And I was like, no, I don't. But it's weird because I always thought we were put into the future. So anyway, I just have to bring that story in because we're in the UFO era and there's much to discuss there, but that isn't actually what I want to talk about. But that happened at that point. So as I'm witnessing the giant Y2K ritual and Bill Clinton saying it is a rising sun, our children are ready, and all these weird esoteric things and all the stuff that I saw
1,000
there.
points of light and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I took that, and they actually blew up Orlando City Hall for the 1,000 point of light thing. But so I started taking all this knowledge in, and I saw, okay, so all of a sudden we had the Bill Clinton scandal, right? And I've covered this a billion times, but I
Which
think
one?
it's so important. Yeah, right? Exactly. See, that's the point, right? So they're feeding us this whole blue dress semen and inserting a cigar into the vagina story. And the whole world's like, oh my God, what the hell? But, flash forward to 2023, and where are we? They're eating children in Haiti and raping women and children in Epstein Island. So, they're selling us this blue dress, he had an extramarital affair. And we're all eating it up like, get them, impeach. And behind the scenes, they're actually going to Epstein Island. You know what I mean? Like, that's how innocent the world was compared to now, as in its understanding. We were upset about this, but I was like, wait a minute, they don't do this to a president. This is national security you're threatening here. This is not something that we do. I don't care how many mistresses JFK had. They didn't put it out on the news. They didn't have the president turning purple in front of a camera saying, oh yeah, put a cigar in her. I mean, it was part of the testimony, right?
Yeah. That's some really humiliating shit right there.
Yeah, but think about what he was really doing, right? And Hillary and all of them, this must have been a joke to them, but yet I don't know. But anyway, so this clued me into this nefarious plan, and I said, okay, so what I see here is they're forcing us to they're dispelling the myth of the man, the president. So the next thing they need to do is force the president into office and make it obvious, because that's part of what I want to get into today with you, is making it obvious, both sides. You know what I'm saying? Both sides. So they wanted you to know that Jeb Bush stole the election for W. They wanted you to know so that half of you'd be angry and the other half would be happy, or either way you'd be fighting. That's the whole thing. And so I said, well, I started studying this occult and the Kabbalah and all of that. And I was doing all of the corporate logos, trying to understand what they all meant. The pyramid and Tau cross on Texaco, the shell, Venus of, shell. And I was studying, and I came to Philip 66, and I'm like, wait a minute, what is 66? And how does this, there's Highway 66 and 66 all over. And then, of course, Star Wars with Execute Order 66. And, it was very simple. I actually grabbed the Magician's Hand dictionary, right? And I looked up numerology, and I said, okay, what is 66? And so number 66, you can see I use these books a lot. You should see my heart book. It's just held together. So number 66, mystic name of the Qliphoth and the Great Work. All right, so anyway, get a copy. It's online, Magician's Dictionary. Look up numerology. So now I'm like, what is Qliphoth? Right. So this takes me to the study of the abyss and the understanding of how that all works. And this is on the Tree of Life, and it explains 9/11. So I'm looking at this 66, Highway 66, Philip 66, and in Hebrew 6 is V. So VVW, and so I said, wow, they're going to bring this guy in, right? I already learned of his Skull and Bones connections, that he was Magog in Skull and Bones, and his dad was head of the CIA. And I'm like, they're going to force W into office, and they're going to make it obvious, because he's the number of the Qliphoth, the fallen ones, the fallen angels, and the abyss, and the Great Work. Whereas H is the Emperor card in the tarot. So Emperor of the Underworld, Emperor of the Abyss would be HW, right?
Okay.
But W, so I said, all right, they're going to force W into office. Now, the entire time through the Clinton era, I was waiting for a 9/11 event. I kept saying it, through 3 years of the Clinton. They're going to have a major attack in the middle of September. It's going to be a terrorist attack, but it's all for your reaction. And the reason I knew this was because they already had Tom Green. Is that right? Tom Ridge.
I was gonna say Tom Green's a comedian, ain't he?
Yeah. They had Tom Ridge already as the head of Homeland Security, right? But there was no Homeland Security. And every October, that Homeland Security bill came up to pass the legislation, and it always failed as, this is the most unconstitutional thing we've ever seen. So they needed a 2-week time period. So I said the middle of September because the bill comes in October. And then every year I was wrong. But when they forced the W into office, that's when I was like, okay, this is going to be the time. So then I amended my middle of September prediction to 9/11 because now I was studying the occult and trying to understand it. And I saw the HW speech on 9/11, 1990, where he said, we will have a new world order for the first time publicly. So now I had this ritual date that I was going with. And then I kind of investigated on my own. I made up a theory of why 9/11. And it's the tarot. When you look at the magic, right, they all practice this Kabbalistic magic. So you can always use this reference. And they have a tree of life. And the tree of life has 10 points on it. And the path straight from earth to heaven is the most dangerous. And it takes you over that abyss. Right.
I literally have the video, but it's not YouTube safe. YouTube don't like me sharing that video of you talking about this.
I believe that.
I have a clip, and they struck me twice for it, man.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm sure we're fine now. It's just that video because I got like mad dramatic.
Oh, are we on
music
YouTube?
Behind. Yeah, we're on YouTube right now.
Oh, you're.
I know. I'm ballsy. I have my boy Brian Stavely. They don't like my boy Brian neither. Every time he's on here, if I go over there, there's just certain people that y'all hit certain nerves online that they just don't like y'all, and the audience that y'all bring the clarity of the perspective that y'all see through your very unique existence, and you're able to share it with the rest of us. They don't like that. They don't like it in general, but especially when you got a certain charisma and energy such as you and my homie Brian and a whole bunch of other people, creators who just they're attracted. We're all magnets, and they're sharing their experience, and it doesn't seem to be a more unified thing against the online people. But I'm glad to be a part of it. I'm glad to know you, and I'm glad that y'all here with me over here on the FMX Radio. Let me give a shout out. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be avoiding anybody. Been really hyper focused on my friend Freeman. Didn't want to miss a word he was saying, and a shout out to everybody who's been rocking it here with me over here on the Rock Fan, the Twitch, and YouTube's, of course, here, Freeman TV, dishing out all the gravy for, just ladling it all over the place. And I still got some things I want to ask them, but we're going to take a short break so I can fill up my coffee, let Mr. Freeman use the restroom and whatnot. And we'll be right back after these messages. And again, thanks everybody. Oh, I think I missed a shout out. Who was that? My boy T Baggins. Thanks for the $5 super chat. I really appreciate you. From the bottom, from the top. Hey, Sister Karen and Stephanie, good to see y'all. Chilster, CJ, Anson. Who else is up in here? I seen Wes in here earlier. Good to see you. Justin, Jeremy, all my favorite. Ted, good to see you. Gigi, I love you all. I'm sorry this got off to a little rough start. Me and Freeman had some little hiccups on the technical side of things in the early part of the show. So I'm glad we were able to, reboot everything and get it going. It's been a fire conversation. I still got some things I want to ask them. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after these little commercials and whatnot, as soon as I can find it. There it is. Be right back. Peace.
You're a man looking at the world through a keyhole. You've spent your whole life trying to widen that keyhole, to see more, to know more. And now, on hearing that it can be widened in ways you can't imagine, you reject the possibility. Have you seen that before in a gift shop?
Teach me.
No.
And we're back. Thanks for being here with us, FMX Radio, one half of the Melodome. We're hanging out, doing our thing. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow, Tuesday. My boy Austin Thompson from the Melodome Chief Captain himself will be throwing it down with another show. You know how we do every week on the Melodome. Shout out to the Troubling Tribune and his family. Hope y'all doing good. Shout out to the little troubling kids. Hope they not too troubled for Miss Troubling. Yeah. And shout out to all my other truth seekers out there, the ones that are always putting a good message, that's always, trying to make sure that they're on the up and up. So watch those intrusive thoughts. Remember, try, take everything with a grain of salt that you learn from day to day. And over time, the things that you see about yourself, you'll see outwards in other people. I truly believe that. And it's going to be us that changes the tides of things to come. With us now, my man Freebit from FreebitTV.com, laying down the gravy. And I gotta ask you, I've been dying to ask you this, wanted to save it for the show. I'm sure you heard of the rumors and a lot of speculation, a lot of correlation of different internet hive mind theorists who suppose that demons and aliens are pretty much one and the same. And if you look at the different evidences that's presented from the different minds out there, it's some pretty, I could see it. I don't know. I've had my own experiences, like you with the paranormal and the supernatural, because I also have some brujeria in my family of the Spanish side of things. Some grandmothers that was into cutting off heads of chickens and stuff. But we're not going to get into that. It was weird, and they didn't let me know what's going on. They was just doing it out in the backyard. I was like, what the fuck? But it's all crazy to me. It's all French to me, and that's why I got someone like you here to kind of explain it, put in a better, higher, more understandable perspective for me and my audience. But what do you think about the idea? Maybe like the experience you have, could you correlate to something of not necessarily you got possessed or anything, but along those lines, almost like where you can kind of correlate the stories of people that have those existential crisis periods where they feel like they need Jesus or whoever, like an exorcism to get this thing out of me. People say that they along those terms. Matter of fact, there's occultists out there that believe there's certain rituals you can do to have UFOs fly over your head. I don't know if you've heard of that too. I've heard some crazy shit, bro. Have you heard of something like this? What do you think?
Yeah, I remember a guy that used to call UFOs. Can't remember what they called him. It was something biblical. But yeah, I did put out my last lecture back in 13 years ago, Aliens from Hell. And
that's what I was trying to get you to say right here.
Right.
Ding, ding, ding,
and I didn't know there was already a documentary that was Aliens Come from Hell, which is a completely different statement than Aliens from Hell, because this is just one particular variety of alien. Then you know what I mean. Whereas if you state aliens come from hell, then that's all aliens, right?
Yeah.
So there's I mean, you look at a gray, and you're like, if that thing walked in your door, would you not think you were meeting Satan or some demon of some sort? Man, those things are ugly and creepy and scary. But when we start to look at this puzzle, we do find all the occult connections to this. Jack Parsons and his rituals and his Babylon rituals for the OTO, and all of this, the Jesuits and their I mean, when the Jesuits come out and tell you that they'll baptize ET no matter how many tentacles they have, and that ET didn't suffer original sin because they weren't born of Eve, you gotta wonder what the hell's going on. This is the lead Vatican astronomers, which are also Jesuits that use the Lucifer telescope. Like, what the hell is going on?
Coincidence doesn't mean anything, Freeman.
No. Yeah, it was actually the Germans that built the Lucifer telescope, just so people think it's the Vatican. It wasn't the Vatican that built the Lucifer.
I don't know why that doesn't make me feel better.
I know. Yeah. It's all the Vatican people using it.
Yeah,
but,
right.
It was
the Jesuits,
Germans,
right? They have Jesuit Germans too, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Right. Yeah.
Of course. Same
Um,
Jugendslagen.
so, I mean, any of the stories, obviously, we go to abductions and things of that nature. I mean, they just sound demonic. But as you start to look to the science of this situation, as most flat earthers, don't believe you can get a rocket through the dome. That seems to be the case, right? I mean, that India landing, boy, that looked real, didn't
Ooh-wee.
it? But so, what technology would they use to get out into the firmament and try to find their way into this demonic realm? And so we come to CERN, and CERN has 666 with a
Stargates.
hyperdimensional portal as their logo, right? They got Shiva standing out there, and all that. Well, so on when Barack Obama was getting his Nobel Peace Prize for unusual efforts, I think that's what he got it for, extraordinary efforts, one of
Yeah,
those.
he's such a great guy. That guy.
He didn't name anything, but yeah. So he's in Norway picking up his Nobel Prize, and there's a giant spiral that opens up in the sky over the iSCAT antenna array. Now, back when Hurricane Katrina was hitting New Orleans. Now, you guys wonder who's owning Maui. Let's find out who owns the ninth. Ninth quarter was the. Did I get that right? And in the ninth ward, right, where all the poor people lived and got flooded. But so when we were watching Katrina, back in those days, we were blaming Russia, right? Conspiracy theorists. We were looking at this, going, "This is weather modification. They're using their ionospheric heater, known as Sura," and we just assumed it was Russia, since why would America do it to itself, right? But just as Katrina was coming in, and this is a whole different story. Sorry, I went off. But just as Katrina was coming in, they were launching the over the horizon radar, that very radar that I was telling you about with the Gulf War and chemtrails that was used to see everybody because you're breathing barium. Um, that was launched out of Galveston, Texas, as Katrina was coming in and was going all the way up to the HARP facility and had to go all the way around South America because it couldn't fit through the Panama Canal. It was so big, it was on an oil rig. And so it had to go all the way around. So that was happening, and while Katrina was hitting, but we were watching these pulses. You could see in the satellite array that there were pulses. So most people blame Sura, the Russian ionospheric heater. HARP was then a later version of this, which actually was a better version. They figured out how to focus the beam instead of dissipate energy. So that's when HARP came into the puzzle. HARP was used as a meteor deflection shield, and on the day they were testing it as such, there was a giant meteor that came down and struck the HARP facility. Like, can they throw meteors at this? As they were testing it as a missile deflection shield, there was a giant rocket that blew up in the atmosphere, and I watched it go from horizon to horizon, looked like an Empire State Building in pieces, just dripping fire. At first, I thought it was a nuclear launch from Russia, because it looked like a bunch of missiles coming our way. But then eventually, you just saw it was this giant. So they announced that it was a Russian rocket mishap that had blown up. But it just so happened that was the day they were testing HARP as a meteor or as a missile deflection shield, which of course takes us out of all of the treaties. If you have mutual destruction and you have a missile defensive shield, then you're no longer in the MAD program, right? Because you can have a shield. So all of this was going on. Then Barack Obama shows up at the iSCAT ionospheric heater, the one there in Norway, and a Russian rocket launches out of a submarine in the White Sea, and it launches this aluminum oxide spiral out of the side of it, and it becomes known as the Norway spiral. Well, at that moment, they are using iSCAT to pulse, and they had CERN at maximum energy at that point. It had never been turned up as much as it was that day. And so in Switzerland, we had CERN at max. In Norway, we had the iSCAT antenna array, and over it, the aluminum oxide cloud that they then pulse this information through. So to give you an idea, they announced, and whether you believe this or not, in planets and all of that, I always have to amend everything now, but they used the iSCAT antenna array to send a Doritos commercial to Ursa Major. So what I'm looking at is them having this ability to send large packets of information using an ultra low frequency wave using the ionospheric heater and pulsing a Doritos commercial to Ursa Major with this. They also sent The Day the Earth Stood Still to Alpha Centauri, but that was on the Deep Waveguide and Cape Canaveral antenna array. They simulcast the movie The Day the Earth Stood Still to Alpha Centauri, but it took 4 years to get there. So it arrived in Alpha Centauri December 21st, 2012, because the movie came out 4 years earlier, but it was simulcast using these ionospheric heaters or deep wave guide antenna arrays like the one at Cape Canaveral. So when I start to look at the real space travel, I'm thinking data packets and these ultra low frequency devices shooting through portals of aluminum oxide that cause noctilucent clouds, like, but so yeah, how this relates to demons and aliens, I'm not sure, but it definitely now points a different puzzle as to what space travel actually is.
What do you think about simulation theory? Because for me, I've been a big proponent as of lately, mostly because I like triggering people and it's fun. No, I'm just kidding. I do like to entertain the idea because, in a way, it gives everybody what they want. And at the same time, I think it gives us more power than suggested. The mainstream idea of the Matrix, which I think was like most things, was to put the idea out there first to capture your imagination. I love the term. You taught me that from day one. Capturing the imagination. Ever since I realized Disney did that to me, I've been really training my own mind to utilize my imagination on a daily basis. Even more now since I'm into content creating. I really try to push the limits on what the message I want without being so abrupt about it, being more subtle, kind of like Disney, being more, subliminal with the messaging, so that way it doesn't ruffle too many feathers outwardly too awkwardly or fast. And I seem to get better results. So ever since I've been trying to think about that, I'm like, well, what if this whole every belief that's been passed down was an effort just to stop us from figuring it out ourselves, because it's in our actions of doing, moving, energetically making a conscious decision to interact with our reality and therefore helping co-create it instead of just co-creating somebody else's story that's been passed down through more or less a company or an occult ritual, which just seems like, from learning from you, what all of this is baselined off of. Like, where are these stories coming from? Why are they always echoing the same ones? And that they repeated through religion and even scientific methods now. I forgot the question I was exactly going to ask.
The Matrix.
Yes, yeah, the simulation. Yeah, so I'm a big proponent that everybody kind of gets their way, knowingly or unknowingly, because we're us being sentient beings. You're subconsciously co-creating the reality that you inherently believe in you, and you only experience and witness the reality that you believe on your subconscious level. So the more that you push your outward conscious with imagination, imagine a different possibility, the more you're able to experience, because now you allowed your uh, exterior conscious mind to accept the subconscious belief outwardly. Now it's going to project outwardly. And I say that kind of a little bit more confidently because ever since I got introduced to you and started my little awakened journey, the more I allow other people's experience and information to kind of come in, digest it. And in the beginning, I was very enthusiastic. I was like, oh, that's what I learned today. You got to hear this. You got to see it this way. And if you don't, you're crazy. And blah, blah, blah. And then I kind of reel it back in. I'm like, okay, wait, what if they're at where I was? They can't see what I'm talking about because they didn't go through the steps yet, or they didn't ask the questions that they needed for their journey as an individual to get to the point of their awareness level being so wide that they can entertain a new possibility subconsciously for it to be exposed on their day-to-day awakened life. So if this is a simulation, it's not only all that and then some, it's stuff that we haven't even entertained yet that's there waiting for us to discover or rediscover. What do you think?
Oh man, if what they're saying now with the UAP stuff that's coming out and the idea that these extraterrestrials have been messing with mankind since our creation, if not involved in our creation, which seems to make sense because you go back to it, and the first creation myth of Egypt is the Ogdoad, the eighth, which is four fish people and four
The
serpent
mer
people.
people.
Yeah,
Like that.
yeah. So the original creation myth in Egypt is four reptilians and four merfolk, four fish people.
That's just insane.
They're called the Ogdoad. So you can check that out. They show them with the serpent heads and all of that. So yeah, it seems like if they've been coming all of this time, let's just hypothesize on this. If they were coming all this time and then bringing up civilizations, we reached the point of Atlantis, right? And we had all that high tech. You can look at all the ancient structures and go, holy shit, how'd they do this, man? And you go like, were they building these walls against dinosaurs? Because why would you do this? And you know what I mean? Like, you got to think that way. You got to start wondering how and why.
And why? Yeah.
uh, and you can see a high civilization, right? That then destroyed itself and had to restart. Now we have amnesia of all of that. We've got slight tales, but all of the stories go back to that. So it seems like, yeah, we get built up to this technological advancement, and then whether or not our consciousness can advance through it or transcend, is the question that the aliens want to know, right? Like, so they just keep trying, right? We're a giant petri dish, so maybe we are just in a big petri dish, right? Could be, right?
Could be. Could be.
And the giants have come and gone, and the people have come and whatever. But we see this ancient structure, we see this high technology in the ancient past, and we see all of this come forward, and we wonder if these aliens have been visiting us all this time, then why wouldn't they just have taken over, right? But maybe they have, right? And so this actually takes me back to my picture that I drew when I was 10. Can I go there?
Absolutely.
Because this is crazy, and it might just fit into this whole puzzle. So I drew this at 10 years old, and this was 1977, right before Star Wars came out. Otherwise, those would have been X-Wings. But
Yeah.
growing up in Orlando, I was fascinated by the Columbia endeavor for the discovery of Atlantis, right? And I remember I drew the fire on here, and I wanted to make it really cool and all this, and I put it on this one, and I wanted to make a really cool symbol on there, and I put this thing. And I said, oh man, that's not that cool. But then I went ahead and I put it on all of them, right? Like,
Little did you know. Little did you
yeah.
know.
But what you see here, guys, is a fleet of space shuttles. Now, NASA's symbol is the pentagram, and the pentagram in Freemasonry is the blazing star, which stands for the star Sirius. And so this would be the side representing Sirius, and this would be our Space Force and all of that good stuff. And then on this side, I have the winged serpent, right? And that would be Alpha Draconis or Draco, right?
Oh, I thought that was the Queen of England.
Right, exactly. So this is when you look at the symbolisms, the Syrians would be represented actually by the Pope and the religious orders and that control grid. And then these would be the military and monetary, which would be the city of London. And it also, the Syrians are known as fish people, right? So this book here, I have to move my award for my Austin TV. That's why it says award winning on my. But so this book, The Serious Mystery, right? And this was a story on the Dogon tribe that were in Mali, Africa. These guys that still lived in mud huts, and they knew everything about Sirius. And they were like, "Well, how'd you know about Sirius?" And they said, "Well, the fish people, the Nomos, came up out of the water. We call them the repulsive abomination, and they taught us all about Sirius." And so these fish people from Sirius taught the Dogon all their mysteries. Well, this is the symbol that they gave to the Dogon for Sirius. That's how the Dogon represents Sirius, and that's mine.
You subconsciously knew it.
Well, maybe I was remote viewing. Was I remote viewing? Right?
Oh, yeah.
Because this turned out to be the crux. I mean, look, guys. I mean, look.
Were you remembering a past life, perhaps?
Well, I think I was remote viewing. I honestly do,
Okay.
because I remember being in this transcended moment when I drew that symbol, and I knew that things meant more. And then, 18 years later, I read this book, right? And then I'm seeing that symbol, and I'm realizing this is about the fish people. Okay, so when you go to Manly P. Hall's, they're about to give some new lectures there. He's 33rd degree Freemason that taught Freemasons what Freemasonry was. I have all of his works right here.
The Secrets of All Ages, was that his? Something like that.
Yeah, Secret Teachings of All Ages, but
Secret
the one
Teachings
I
of
would
All.
recommend is damn it, where are all my books? I just rearranged the library. Sorry, but The Secret Destiny of America is the one of his that I would read, where he says Akhenaten should have been born now. But so on this doorway panels, you can see this on my Flickr account if you want to go look at my photography. It's on my website. If you just click the two little dot icons for Flickr, you
Flickr,
can, yeah.
Flickr.com.
You go to Manly P. Hall's doors of the Philosophical Research Society, and on one door you've got a fish man that represents Confucius, and on the other a reptilian man, which represents Plato. And then this is said to be the two states of our mind. So we have the reptilian brain and then the mammalian brain, but we also have a fish brain. And so it is the emotional versus the intellect. And it's the constant struggle of humanity, all represented, plus the religious aspects of the Vatican and the City of London being the monetary side. All of these fit into a serious Alpha Draconis conquering of planet Earth through these institutions that actually seem to follow this. I mean, the Pope wears Dagon's hat with the fish person. He has shells on his order. And
Do you think they intended for the people in 2023 to make fun of them as much as we do? Because they probably, maybe that was cool back when they first came up with it. Like, yeah, we're gonna have the main guy. He gonna wear this cool fish hat, and then when we do the rituals, he gonna roll up his pant leg. It's gonna be so cool. Y'all gonna love it. And they didn't think when us regular people gonna find out about it that we wasn't gonna make fun of them like a roast.
yeah.
And I don't know. I think like they trying to normalize it, but at the same time they're trying to make it cool, but they're not cool. So when uncool people try to make things cool, it just makes them look even more uncool. And I just
Look about Klaus Schwab and that crazy
yeah,
getup.
exactly. Just the way he talks is
And the
hilarious.
rainbow Nazi. Yeah.
We're
It
supposed to
will
take you
be
guys
an
serious?
angrier world. And that's what they're after here, right? It's an angrier world, right? Indict Trump, just make everybody angry. It's all about just making you angry. That's the whole game, right? Just to
Yep.
keep you in the game, right?
Yep.
So you were asking me about the Matrix, the simulation, and as I went and took off in a van, right? So I started making juggling sticks, and I started juggling, and I realized I could sell these things in any park in America. So I jumped in a van, and a little black and white spotted dog pawed at my ankle and followed me for the rest of the years that I traveled. And that's the fool card, literally stepping off a cliff with a dog pawing you at the ankle while you're juggling. It was literal. I lived that. But as I got out on the road, I started running into people that I had met already. I mean, first time in Washington, D.C., I'm laying down in front of the Washington Monument, and I hear somebody call Freeman. And I'm like, what? How is this possible? And it's the girl I sold a set of juggling sticks in a flea market in Florida. And she's actually the lead anthropologist at the Smithsonian. And so she takes me down into the underground. I get to see all the stuff that's not on display. I was holding saber-tooth tiger heads and stuff. And
Nice.
but anyway, it was so random. It was so weird. And then that just kept happening. And so I got on this life of synchronicity, and I believed completely that I was going to constantly be okay. And I was. And so I had a motto. I'd say, I ain't dead yet. But it was actually like ironic because I was living the life of Riley. I was, at mansions and doing all the things that, millionaires do or whatever.
I know. Yeah, when you were talking about it, I was at work just like, man, how does this guy always go on places? And
I
I'm
just
over here
go.
working. He dropped a new one today. He's in California. Now he's with the Rainbow Tribe, and now he's over here at this celebrity's house. Yeah, man, you've definitely had. It's been fun to watch you over the years, and it's great to even now to even know you have your phone number. This is like
Yeah,
it's
man.
crazy the way this whole Matrix place works, man.
That's
And
how
it's
I
not.
felt too, man. Yeah, I
It's
couldn't
like that.
believe it when I started. And people would say yes when I asked them to be on my show. Like, whoa, all right, But
Excellent, excellent.
things like just thinking of the simulation. So the point of that was that I lived this whole synchronistic life that constantly just led me to the right place at the right time, and it was always perfect. And I think that's what is natural for humanity. So we're constantly trying to figure out this game that we're playing. If we get Trump in and he's a hero, and we'll get Jasara, and we'll get the whole government and Hillary in jail, and we'll get justice and everything will be fine. And you know, all of that just keeps you straight in the game. None of it. You're never going to win this game. But synchronicity. I had no idea what I was doing or why I was doing it, but it kept working out. And when we look at the world and we see the Fibonacci spiral, the sequence and everything, then a hummingbird doesn't ask another hummingbird how to build its house. You know what I mean? Like we all have that genetic memory. So when you try to suggest people just quit their jobs and go and do things, they think, oh my God, the world will fall apart. But humans are creators. We create. We can't help it. That's what we do. Nobody's going to sit idle if you quit your job. You're going to
Right,
start doing something. You're going
right.
to. So
That's some of
yeah.
my family still their biggest hurdle to jump over is the idea that they can change whatever they want when they want. So they see me doing it all the time, and it gives them a little bit of motivation. But like you said, they kind of get stuck in their ways, and they're scared to take that jump themselves. It's like, well, just because you were lucky enough to blah 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 blah. I'm like, come on, come on. I'm like, I was saying this shit too, man. I'm like, I was doing this. Come on now, just jump, just do it. Have faith. You're great creators out there. I'm always telling y'all. Y'all know this is right. Y'all know what he's saying is right. We, you regardless of what you're going through, you're always creating. Whether you're in a good mood, bad mood, great mood, you're always creating. And that's what we want to focus on here on the FMX radio is to take our innate God-given abilities and start manifesting things, willfully with good intent. So we can kind of count. And so we are countering. I won't say we are countering those the occultic rituals that go on, because I think that's why they have to keep at it. Evil's got to keep trucking, because by nature the goodness in the majority of us, we keep trucking, and we're not even trying. We're doing it effortlessly. They have their little fear tactics, right? That's what they do. That's why they buy up all the big media conglomerates, and they try to put their low vibrational information out there, because they have to. They have to, because the goodness inside of us, all the majority of us, the humans, and by nature, we're good people. We want good things. We want to be left the f alone so we can prosper and grow, and we want that for our neighbors and our friends and family, and they know that. But that evil
Look at
part of the yin yang, man, that dark side is, they're doing what they do. The snake's gonna bite.
look at COVID. They weaponized compassion, right? Almost all of it. Black Lives Matter, whatever. They weaponize compassion, and then turn you into an angry, violent mob.
Yeah.
Like they take compassion and they turn it into this.
And we're easy to call a lot of people NPCs because of that too. But I have to admit, there was a time in my life where I was very influenced by external information. I wouldn't
Oh
take the
yeah.
time to digest it and really sit on it, ask other intelligent people what they think on the subject, and what would we do if something like this happened to us, the moves we should take. Should we believe the words that come in the mouth from the television, or should we go figure out for it ourselves? So yeah, this is definitely some deep shit.
Yeah. Yeah, we all thought this was all coming in Y2K, right? We were all anticipating. I didn't believe in the computer virus story, but a lot of people don't know that they were charging $10 a line for the computer code to be fixed, and the DoD alone had 500 billion lines of code. So just do the math, right? There was billions made on Y2K. But the fear, and at that time we were getting all the notices about the plastic coffins. So back in Y2K, we were waiting for the big pandemic. We thought, well, they got all the plastic coffins out there. They can hold 3 bodies each. I mean, when is this going to happen? When will I live in FEMA region? Whatever.
District
So
9.
yeah, now here we are, 23 years later, 24 years later, and it's the exact same story, only all put together in one. Like, as I look at Bill Clinton being taken down as the man, W being forced in, the election fraud, right? So our president sucks, a lot of fraudulent elections, and then the next one was Barack Obama's birth certificate, and so ineligible presidency, stolen elections, everything that we see in the Biden administration, all in one, along with flying saucers and fires and, pandemics and everything that we saw in Y2K is now in our faces again, but all at once.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's overwhelming. It can be. So I try to take it one topic at a time nowadays because there's so much going on, and these rabbit holes get deeper and deeper and more intricate. They run into each other and then they veer back off again. And for me, all this is just more evidence is that we live in a very highly sophisticated divine simulation. And I know it's probably not the best word to use. Maybe we'll create a better one down the road. But for me, if God created all of this, just like if a developer was to create something, it would be the creator. It would be an extension of the creation of that developer. It would be a simulated version of the developer's reality, but it's still real. And that's how I like to look at our reality. It's still real just because it's God's simulation and he's telling a certain story that's not just 3 or 4th dimensional. It's probably, infinite dimensional and layers that we can't even comprehend yet. So best to take this ride as fun as you can, make the best out of it. Don't focus on all the dark parts, and in the darkness that comes to you, find the best way to turn a flashlight on that bitch, like Mr. Freeman does. Make the best out of the bad situations.
Yeah, at this point, you can't know whether your emotions are yours. All the technologies at this point, your fear might just be induced by a microwave. You never know.
Touche. Yeah, it's the weapons out there now. We don't have to worry about just bullets anymore. It's way past that. Psychological warfare.
I wanted to throw this one out at your audience. I was going through all my UFO stuff, and I found a bunch of MUFON documents that I have. Very, same old stuff, right? Whenever you hear this stuff, it's always the same, like aliens and grays and autopsies, and it's like, yeah, get on. But this one fascinated me because of my ideas on Barack Obama and the cloning of Akhenaten, because this is actually an ancient UFO tale. So I wondered if anybody could find this, because I couldn't find anything online about it. But it's called the Ancient Egyptian UFO Case, and it's written by Donald John Long, which I thought was interesting. So close to Donald John Trump, but Donald John Long, because, Trump's all involved in all of this. But this turns out to be a UFO story written in Karnak in the 18th dynasty of Egypt, which was just before King Tut. It was actually King Tut's parents or grandparents. And so he deciphered this, and it's a tale of these UFOs showing up in Karnak, and how the pharaoh was trying to deal with it and with the people, and how the UFOs came back in more mass and then left again. So the ruler at the time was Thutmose III, along with his wife Queen T.
Queen T. I remember you used to talk about her all the time.
Now, if you take half of Queen T's face,
Michael Jackson,
and you put Michelle Obama's face on the other half, it is a perfect match.
Oh, so Queen T was a man too?
Well, she could have been. She's a mystery, right? No, yeah, hermaphrodites were venerated in Egypt, so it's quite possible that she has both. I don't know, but yeah, grandma of King Tut, mother of Akhenaten, the man who should have been born now, according to Manly P. Hall, the cone-headed pharaoh known as the renegade.
And
they're
trying to mimic the gods, right, with the skull. Or were they part, or like inbreds or something, hybrids?
Yeah, because this whole story here, which is pretty interesting, the Bible revealed, tells of how the Egyptian and Hebrew bloodlines came to form Queen T and Akhenaten. So they're actually hybrids of Egypt and Hebrew, but there's also the extraterrestrial connection for sure. And now I have evidence that dates the UFOs at the time of Akhenaten's birth. And I mean, I have all the evidence necessary except for a piece of Obama's DNA. That's the last piece of the puzzle. If I had a piece of that and I could compare it to Akhenaten's, which I can, I mean, because they have Akhenaten's DNA, um, then this puzzle would be solved. But man, if we're starting to get into this place where the UFOs and the ancients and all of this story is coming back around, then maybe they needed a familiar face, right, to bring back for all of this. Because guys, Akhenaten and Obama are identical. Queen T and Michelle Obama are identical. Malaya and Sasha are identical to the daughters of Akhenaten and Queen T, or Akhenaten and Nefertiti. Queen T would be Akhenaten's mother. Okay, so realize that if Michelle were Queen T and Barack would be Akhenaten, then that would be a mother-daughter or mother-son relationship. Uh, so however you want to. I mean, as soon as I was pushing this, that's when they came heavy with the damn Michelle's a man theory, and it just overshadowed everything I was doing. I mean, you gotta realize I was on the air announcing that I believe this, right? Like I believe that Obama, because I had found all the evidence, not just one picture that looks similar. You know what I mean? I had pulled 4 family members together, and then I was like, but I can't prove this to you because they've never announced that they actually have Akhenaten's mummy. They believe they do, but it's been a 100-year-old mystery of whether or not KV-55 was actually Akhenaten Nefertiti family. And then all of a sudden, the head of the Giza Plateau, Zahi Hawass, comes out and announces, hey, guess what? I didn't want to tell you beforehand until we built our own DNA lab under the Cairo Museum that we do actually have Akhenaten's DNA, and here it is. And I've got it on VHS, all right? I'm watching it right now. I'm getting through it right up. They announced that they built this DNA lab under, and they have the DNA. So, I mean, guys, cloning is nothing, right? Cloning is easy. It's the original cloning done back in 1900s was done with hand-blown glass tools and a baby's hair. Right? It's not rocket science. It really isn't. This guy used to clone salamanders. It was Spearman, and he would just like drool as he would make these monstrosities. He would put his baby's hair and pull the egg apart and then birth a 2-headed salamander and then wonder why they would fight over the food when it had one body. These things intrigued him. But so I'm just saying, man, I still am not backing down. I am not backing down on this whole cloning theory.
Man, I'm along for the ride. Whatever you find, man, I want to see it. I want to know if they some ancient clones of Egypt. I want to know if they really I don't know, one of these hermaphrodites, what they call them. I don't know. I hear all types of crazy conspiracies. They're all entertaining, but I know you have been definitely watching them the longest before all these, trends. But I feel like this trans investigation has a lot to do with the transhumanism that you've been saying. I think this trending part of gender thing is a part of what you've been talking about. That whatever's on the other side of this seems chaotic and scary and messy. Ugh,
it's so weird.
Yucky. It's so weird. It's so weird. And if that's, I can't think of anything more transhumanism than getting people to debate over what used to be, the base of all common sense. Women have vaginas and men have penises. It can't be that simple anymore. Whatever's on the other side, and my grandchildren's future is going to be seemingly idiocracy, everything going ass backwards. But I don't think these type of conversations are going anywhere. Matter of fact, I think these conversations will be just as prominent and potent, and we'll continue to learn things because part of this matrix in duality, you got to have extremes of both sides. So you have, obviously, the evil people are still trying to normalize, adrenochrome and eating babies and Epstein Islands and shit like that. And then you have the good people who are like, no, there's a line in the sand and y'all not going to cross it. Here it is. Don't even think about it. Y'all can change words. You can change whatever identity in your head all you want. But it gets to a certain point, this evil crap, this tomfoolery will come to an end. At least, as far as the mass is concerned. I do think that the internet hive mind has tolerance levels and they're intelligent. The individual, maybe not so much. But as a collective, you get nothing past the hive mind and the internet. And for me, that is the you put your finger on the pulse of humanity online. You know, no matter what chat room you go to, you gauge it long enough, you'll see where people's, as a collective, really where their hearts are at. And for the most part, it's good. People agree that, you know, eating babies are bad, doing bad things is bad. And just because they keep trying to fudge new rules and laws into existence doesn't mean that we're just going to keep going for this crap. And I don't think we are. You know, their
Do you
tool of
think
fear is used. Go ahead.
do you think once we develop these full force robots, did you hear about the Russian robots with the giant, or the drones, the giant drones that were coming down and grabbing Ukrainian warriors and flying off?
No.
Did you hear about the military, the Marines fighting with FEMA over at Lahaina, and the bodies that were shown with, or found with bullet holes?
I did hear
I'm,
that one,
I'm still trying to
unfortunately.
find more. You know, I'm just throwing these out there as the weirdest things I've heard this week. Uh,
Telling you, TikTok, man. That's why we get all my
yeah,
Lahana information, because that's the only place. Because there's matter of fact, I just watched this one earlier this morning where this guy was next to this truck that had its own computer system in it. It's one of the newer trucks where it has Wi-Fi in it, and you had like 50 people around his truck trying to use his Wi-Fi because most of the islands is out right now, obviously,
yeah, they're
and there's
using
not and
Starlink. Yeah.
yeah, whatever. Yeah, them floating balloons in the sky or whatever it is, or a plane.
Mm.
I think Starlink's a plane and a series of weather balloons. Probably, I think they just link them together. I don't know. I don't. That's just what I've seen. I think, who knows though? I do think it's real. That's for sure. AI, it's definitely a part of it. But yeah, Lahana, my heart goes out to them. Shout out to all you Lahanans and TikTok for letting them share their message out here with the rest of the world, because for some reason, the rich people are saying, screw the Hawaiian people and we're going to take it over and build 15-minute cities or whatever. Kind of scary. Scary.
It's funny, that wasn't even the question I was going to ask, but now I forgot.
Sorry. Yeah,
Oh,
that happens
well,
to me
once
all
we
the
get to
time.
that point, you know, I wonder if there is a Rubicon where once we build AI and the robots, that there's no going back. Because I often wonder that with Atlantis. Like, you know, I believe that there were other nations other than Atlantis, and Atlantis lost control of
Lemurians, right?
AI
Wasn't
and
that one of them? I'm sorry.
Lemuria.
Lemurians? I remember
Yeah.
that one.
So, you know, maybe Atlantis had to die, because once you integrate robots and AI, there's no going back, especially once you've transformed the human form and put in brain chips or even altered your DNA. Uh, maybe they, you know, just like Moses, right? Like he had pure blood. They have to kill off anyone that has this, because maybe there's a point where there is no return. That's what I'm concerned about, like AI and robots, is they're going back, because it seems we're genetically predisposed to build AI and robots, right? Like we just slowly, well, you know, throughout all of our time, we were inevitably going to build robots and AI. You know, it's just
I
inevitable. There was
agree.
no
I
time
agree.
that it wasn't going to happen.
I
So
agree.
that's my concern. Is there a Rubicon, and will we be able to end this if we let it go?
Pandora's box has been open already. I agree
Mm.
with you. I don't think there's no going back. Nor do I know if I want to go back. I don't know. Knowing what we know now, what is there to really go back to? And this, can't really change anything in the past. It's too late. It's already happened.
Yeah.
But
Well,
maybe
we're
if
not
we,
there yet. You know, we don't have the chips in. Some people do, but we
some people, I
don't
was gonna
have. We
say,
haven't altered our DNA. Some have, but you know, we're not there yet.
there's a whole company with people with their chips in their hand already. At least right
Mm.
here, and they pay for their gas, and they open up their jobs office door with
Now
them.
the
So,
palm scanners.
and I've seen a couple quickie marks. At least online, people there's no custodian or anybody at the counter. It's all digital, and you got to
Right.
have either your card or a little hand scanner. Some of them was pretty scary because the scanner was up high supposedly, and they were claiming, through a video that that they could read if you had a chip in your forehead, they could read the mark on your forehead. I'm like, you know, I'm a techie guy. I like messing with. I'm good with my hands. I've installed electrical devices, and I just don't see that seems more of a motion detector thing, so it could turn on the lights for you. But I don't know. I don't know.
They're building
It's very
up.
weird.
They're building up. All right. So the weirdest video I've seen, and I want to try and recreate this. I want to toss this one just for your thoughts.
Sure.
They took a piece of a genetically altered tomato, cut the peel off the tomato, and put it in the salt water. and the damn thing started swimming. Now we know they're using fish genes to make the extended life in these tomatoes and all that. We know that they're using CRISPR technology and splicing the genes of fish into this. I haven't done this myself, but I saw the video on TikTok where they sliced the GMO tomato, put it in salt water, and they had mixed salt with the water, and that damn thing started swimming. I don't know.
And
I don't know.
not even a tomato safe anymore.
No, we're gonna have to start sprouting, man.
Okay.
Oh
Damn.
God.
Well, how about you turn that tomato into ketchup? Then what's it gonna do?
Exactly. I gotta try that one on my own though. I want to know
Yeah,
if that's real.
that sounds very interesting.
Yeah. But I love it, man. We do have an amazing, wild hive mind going on here. I'm glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, me too. I'm very glad that you're still around and they haven't got, secretly taken you out. Anything? All these notifications.
Yeah, they shut down my YouTube when they shut down Alex, but then they let me linger a little while longer. Maybe they didn't want me to get the extra attention or whatever. I still haven't figured out why they banned me, to be honest. I'd love all of you to watch Aliens from Hell. It's free on Rockfin. And tell me why
Aliens
they
are
banned this.
fantastic. Yeah.
Because
Yep.
I went on Greg Reese's program. He's one of the InfoWars reporters, and Greg and I go way back. We made this epic video. He made it really, but I was starring in it. The They Live version of Chemtrails. It was epic. It's a short music video that he did with Flo White. But I went on Greg's show just recently, and he promoted Aliens from Hell from his website. It's been sitting there on Vimeo for 13 years, and they banned it that day, just because Greg Reese shared it, because it was connected with an InfoWar host, or he's not even a host.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
But
it's
it was-
connected. Yeah.
But I want to know why any of you think it was banned. Like why? I can't figure out. I can't figure it out honestly.
My 2 cents is you do a good job of correlating the whole aliens from hell thing, like we were talking about earlier. That's you were the first one to introduce that concept to me, and I've been kind of running with it, and I see the correlations everywhere. A lot of the same stories repeated through different individuals who don't even know each other. So I think it's pretty remarkable that, like I said, I shared parts of that, and even stuff that you weren't in it. Anything that if you want to share just demons, sure. Just aliens, fine. Say them together, nope. That seems to be where the line's drawn for them. Like, no, you can't say they're the same thing. That's not allowed. Oh, it's weird. Very weird. All right, my friend. And we could go. I'm so glad that this worked out. We had a little hiccups in the first part of the show. We were supposed to start at 4:30 or so, but the internet does what internets do. Mess. The effects happen. If it can go wrong, it will go wrong at times. But we proceeded to successfully see this through, and it's so good to talk to you again. I haven't seen you since Blacktoberfest last year. Will you be able to make it to this year in Vegas?
Oh, I doubt it.
It is a journey.
Traveling to Vegas sounds scary.
I still need to procure my tickets for both plane and event. So yeah, I get it. It's been like this, my finances this year. I'm up and then I'm down, and shit happens. And I know
it was so nice that it was right here,
Right.
It was 10 minutes from my house.
Right. Oh, great. I'm sure they'll, Miss Karen will probably do it again. Or I've heard rumors of people doing like a Flattoberfest B simultaneously. I don't know if they're gonna do it this year or not,
Right.
but I've heard rumors.
I thought about taking a spot and doing a Freeman Fest,
Yeah. Matter of fact, that sounds like something that's overdue. That would be fantastic.
I do want the audience to know that the people at Flattoberfest were the best damn people ever. Like, I've done a bunch of conferences. I've been to all these, and I found this group like the most wonderful people I'd ever had, the joy of sitting around with. And it was great.
Yeah, I agree. Every time I go, it's nothing but love and good times and smiles and giggles. I don't even barely. Not only do I sleep, I rarely even eat because I'm talking with people the whole time and hanging out and seeing what's going on next.
And what really inspired people to come to Greenville was that we didn't have mask mandates, so everybody was really thrilled to come. And so now that we're going to have mask mandates again, maybe we can come back again.
God, I'm gonna keep posting every day. Posting like, people, please, let's not do this shit again. There's no way y'all forgot. It just, we just went through it. We just went through. I don't know how people are so gullible. I get it. They brainwash it. I mean, but damn, come on, y'all just go just whatever they say. You just go be like, okay, whatever you say. Come on,
Crazy.
Old. It's old. I don't get it. It is what it is. But Freeman, thanks you so much. We have to do this again. I hope I could contact you again in the near future, the near soon future, because I could talk to you for hours, bro. I could talk to you for hours.
Let's do it.
So many different rabbit holes to go through. I mean, each things we talk about now is 8 or plus hours in itself, each topic, because it's just it's too much information, and you're a wealth of knowledge with all your years under your belt at this point. So will you please tell everybody where to find you so they can get in contact with you if they want to and look at your material?
Well, Freeman TV is my main website, and I'm still doing the podcast there, 18 years running, having amazing guests, and that's just audio only format. Because I lost all abilities to do videos. I'm working back towards that. So I've started a Rockfin channel. So we have rockfin.com/Freeman TV and Rumble/Freeman Fly. And if you just search Freeman TV, you'll find all of my stuff. That's my handle on Twitter, Facebook. I'm known as the real Freeman Fly, but it's not actually me, but it is. I'm not allowed on Facebook, so I have somebody running it for me, but I'm the ghost behind the hand. So it is me, but it's not me. So if you're writing me on Facebook, I'm not getting it because I'm not allowed on Facebook.
It's
but if
clone.
you're
his government clone is writing you.
Yeah. So Freeman TV, just do a search and you'll find me.
Easy peasy. You're an original and you're excellent. You're a good guy. You have good energy, man. Thank you so much for taking the time to come up with a big fan of yours for so many years. So it's definitely an honor having you on, brother. And I can't wait to hang out with you in person again.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I look forward to it.
Man. And everybody else, I'll see you on the Melodome probably tomorrow. Austin, of course, shout out to my Melodome crew. Shout out to the Troubling Tribune family. Hope you're doing good and be looking forward, Miss Tribune, to be picking up the debates again soon in the near future. It's going to be fun having a lady run the show. So I'm going to have to come over there, put on my security hat, make sure y'all treat her nice and respectfully, because that's what we do over here in the FE community. We protect our women. We all neighbors. We all got to look out for each other. With that being said, have a great, fantastic week and evening. Make sure you're drinking clean water. Speak good things about yourself and about others. Karma's real. It does come back for you. And so does the good stuff. So the more you put out, the more you get back. It is what it is. And I love you for it. Thanks again, everybody. And I will see y'all on the next one, to be determined, with our next guest, or maybe just me. You never know. We'll be rapping. We'll be talking about it. The Flat Earth community, baby. I love it here. Freeman Fly. That's my man over here. It's my homie. Look him up. Go check. Go watch his magazines. Go watch his movies. Go all of that. Telling you go spend. It took me years following him, and then even longer to kind of grasp what the hell he's talking about. Now I finally feel like I'm near his level where I can pick up what he's putting down. That's right. Weird Stuff magazine. That's it right there. All the gravy. Tell you got some good images, man. You did a great on that. They're classics. Classic reading material.
Yeah, honestly, if I were to ask now what I am, it's an artist. That's really what I am. It's all art. Yeah. I just make art out of the world.
I love it.
It's all art.
Thanks again, Freeman. Thanks again, everybody. Until I see you again. Thanks for all the super chats and donations and the Rockfin tips. JJ, I just seen that in there. Thank you, brother. And thank you, everybody. Until the next one. One love. We out. Peace.
Yet in holding scientific research and discovery in respect, as we should, we must also be alert to the equal and opposite danger that public policy could itself become the captive of a scientific, technological elite.
We choose to go to the moon.
I'm talking to you by telephone from the Oval Room at the White House.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a great honor and privilege for us to be here.
First question I was wondering, when are we going back to the moon?
It's taken us many years to open this door to useful cooperation in space between our two countries. And may I say, in signing off, here's to a soft landing.
All of them spin-offs of space technology. That's why Jimmy Carter from Georgia
and Gerald Ford from California agree.
Space technology has down-to-earth benefits for everyone.
America is going to space again, and we're going there to stay. And next, for the new century, back to the moon, back to the future, and this time back to stay.
That's a great dream. But that and our other dreams are clearly the natural extensions of the space program which began a generation ago.
Is to return to the moon by 2020 as the launching point for missions beyond. Beginning no later than 2008, using the Crew Exploration Vehicle, we will undertake extended human missions to the moon as early as 2015.
By the mid-2030s, I believe we can send humans to orbit Mars and return them safely to Earth. And a landing on Mars will follow. And I expect to be around to see it.